When we talk of democracy, we mean true representation, and the parliament is the place. And therefore, the people must be informed. A program that brings to you expert clarifications and teachings of parliamentary concepts and procedures. Welcome to this program.
Thank you very much.
On Parliamentary Guide, we'll teach, we explain, we clarify parliamentary concepts and terms.
And value of run oversight over the executive. And value of run oversight over the executive.
Hello and many thanks for joining us on Parliamentary Guide, the program that explains parliamentary processes, motions and bills for your enlightenment. I am Ejiroghene. On the program today, we shall be focusing on reconsideration of bills, and our guide is Ranking Member of the House and Chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business, Representative Ejiroghene Francis Waive. Honorable, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It's my pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Yes. Let's begin with first things first. The topic, reconsideration of bills. What is it all about?
Well, I would like to first say hello to all my constituents in Ughelli North, Ughelli South, and Udu for sending me here. And then I also would like to appreciate Mr. Speaker, His Excellency Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, who has appointed me the chair of the House Committee Rules and Business in the 10th Assembly. The question you asked is as regards the reconsideration of bills and what it's all about. Usually, I think I should start from the constitutional provision. Section 60 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, gives the Parliament, in our case, the Senate and the House of Representatives, the power to establish procedures and protocols to guide its deliberations and achieve its purpose, which of course is lawmaking. You know, and in pursuance of that, houses of parliament in the country, at the local, state, and federal level, they've each set up their own standing orders and rules of procedure. And for us in the House of Representatives, we are currently operating the 10th standing order that was used by the 9th House. But currently we have a committee in place that is doing a review. Of course, because the number of our committees have increased in this 10th Assembly, and secondly, because the law, the guiding law, the standing orders, provide that we can use the standing orders of the previous Assembly up to the day of the inauguration of the new Assembly. And thereafter, if we want to continue with it, good and fine. And but after that, we have the right to amend it as we deem please. So it is within our constitutional privilege. Section Order 12, Rule 16 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives provides or makes provision for bills that either of three things have happened to in the previous Assembly. One, it was passed by the House of Representatives, and maybe not, we didn't get concurrence from the Senate before the life of that Assembly ended. Or it was passed by the Senate, and then we didn't get concurrence in the House of Representatives before that Assembly ended. Or it was passed by both chambers and then sent to Mr. President. But for one reason or the other, it was not assented to before the new Assembly was inaugurated. You will find many such cases when the former president was leaving. Some of our bills that came to him, he couldn't sign them before leaving. And upon inauguration of the new Assembly, Mr. President, the current president, couldn't assent to bills of the previous Assembly, now, as it were, to be returned to the House. So what Order 12/16 makes provision for is for the reconsideration of such bills. where they are presented again, either by the sponsor, that's the member who presented it ab initio in the beginning, or by any other sitting member can present these bills that either of these three things has happened to. Now, when you bring such bills back on the floor, you are reconsidering such bills. And Order 12 Rule 16, which I will keep referring to in this discussion because it is the basis for reconsideration of bills, it gives the those sort kind of bills some edge, such that when they are reintroduced, they are not begun de novo. That is, you don't start afresh with first reading, second reading where it's debated, and then public hearing where necessary, and then before you come back to the committee of the whole, clause by clause consideration, you don't go through all that hog anymore. What we do, and what is practiced in the National Assembly, in the Senate, and in the House of Representatives, is that such bills are re-gazetted just to give them a new number. Every bill that goes through the process must have a number. And we cannot use the number of the previous assembly to consider it in the new assembly. So what we do is to first re-gazette in the process, give it a number for this assembly, for this. So we now have HB, it could be HB 300 and something in the last assembly. In this assembly, depending on when it was represented, it can now become HB 1 or 200 or 300, as the case may be. After that representation, where it is given a number and listed for first reading, it goes straight to the committee of the whole for clause by clause consideration. And before that happens, the chairman rules and business will bring it to the attention of the House that the following bills from the previous assembly, having been re-gazetted and renumbered, are going to the committee of the whole for consideration. So it skips all those second reading debates, public hearing, if ever, although that must have been done in the previous assembly. So that is the procedure of reconsidering bills. And it's ordinarily a representation of bills that have been passed in the previous assembly. Whereas for a new bill, a fresh bill, you must go through the process, first reading, second reading, and all of that. So this is what it means to reconsider a bill.
Okay, I'm sure our viewers will also like to know, does it mean that when a bill is on the table of a president or an outgoing president and a new one comes in, does it mean that the new president cannot assent to that bill?
Yes. First, you look at the number of days. That's the first thing that can catch up with any bill. There's 90 days for the president to assent or return it back. So if the former president didn't do that, and in the process of these ceremonies and all that, time has elapsed. There's nothing you can do about that. Then where a new assembly is already in place, it is not the practice for the new president to sign the previous, especially when time has lapsed as per the requirement of the Constitution. So that is the position. But in this recent past, just before the last president left, some of the bills he assented to on the advice, I believe, of the Attorney General of the Federation. But then there will be some that he couldn't go through thoroughly, and he left that job for the new president. And there are many that the new president didn't sign automatically. For instance, we have the audit bill that we considered yesterday in the Committee of the Whole. And we have the transportation bill we considered yesterday. Those are two examples of bills that were before the president, but the new president didn't sign because they were passed by the previous assembly and the outgoing president didn't sign them and time elapsed. So those two occurred. So they are lying there. It is now either of two things. Mr. President sends them back for reconsideration, or the sponsor or any interested member picks them up and brings them for reconsideration. That is what happens to such bills. So at the end of the day, not every such bill come back for reconsideration. Because if nobody brings them back, either a serving member or the previous sponsor or even the presidency, nobody brings it back, then that bill could be as good as dead, you know.
Okay, so can you give us more insight into some of the bills that are likely to be reconsidered? Because we remember in the Ninth Assembly, the gender bills, for instance, were rejected. And, that has brought about a lot of hue and cry. Yes. So let us know some of these bills that are likely to be reconsidered.
Yes, I wouldn't agree that those bills were rejected. It's just that when you count the numbers, you know, it's the minority will have their say, the majority will have their way.
That's as good as rejection.
I wouldn't call it rejection, because I know, for instance, I voted for all the gender friendly bills, you know, but the first thing to be done is for those bills to be presented again. Constitutional review is something that is done regularly, because we don't have a perfect document, and we may never have a perfect document. Even the United States, after 200 years, you still hear of the First Amendment, 8th Amendment, and all of that. So we are having the same in Nigeria. We are hoping that before the Constitutional Review Committee will get to work, there will be a request for such bills to be reconsidered, in the sense that any serving legislature, particularly our honorable female members, a male member can do the same. I can do it.
He for she.
He for she, my brother. Present such bills again for reconsideration. And in that case, they will be referred to Constitutional Review Committee in this particular instance, because it's that committee that would go work on it. And then, not only on that, every other bill that comes for review of any section of the Constitution. And such bills would now be, the committee will work on them, do public hearing like they did previously, and come up with those that satisfy public opinion, and present them again to both chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives, and then there will be a vote again. We believe that this time such bills will still be presented, and when they are presented, we believe that they will be passed, because there has been some advocacy, some non-governmental organizations, female pressure groups. They've engaged many of us members, and I believe they are engaging the new members who have come into Parliament, because like the House of Representatives, this 10th Assembly, the turnover rate is so high, 80% new. So they have to also engage them, so that before voting day, these people have met one-on-one with sitting members who are going to be voting, so that they can understand the reason behind most of these requests for constitutional amendment to favor the female gender. But many times you want to worry that you can overdo it. I hear that in Canada today, there's the male gender that are now pressing, that they should be heard, they should not be discriminated against. But in Nigeria, it's still the female gender that we have issues with. I'm particularly touched that in the 10th Assembly, we have fewer ladies, particularly in the House of Representatives. There are some issues they can better advocate for when they are on ground. Like this past week, there was the motion that they raised on the girl child stuff. You know, no other male member of the House remember that day was a day set out for the girl child education. You know, but because they were female members, they remember.
So they have a place in Parliament.
Oh yes, and I know the pressure I passed through in their hands, because Tuesday, that was the real day. Was it Tuesday? Wednesday, we lost a member. And so by tradition, we didn't sit. A member from Sokoto is so resting. A very sad occurrence. So by Thursday, it wasn't the girl child day anymore. So as chairman rules of business, I cracked a joke that I would take that out of the other paper. Oh, you need to see them swarm on me. So, so we had to put that back on Thursday, yesterday, on the other paper. And only a female legislator or female legislators can do that. And I'm glad to, Speaker is listening to them. This 10th Assembly, for instance, most of us have not gotten our official vehicles. Maybe 90-something% of us. But all the female legislators have gotten. So kudos to Mr. Speaker.
So they have preference.
Yes, so there you can see that discrimination I was talking about.
If you say so. Anyway, the program is Parliamentary Guide. We thank you so much for staying with us so far. We just take a short break and we'll continue the conversation.
On NTA Parliament, we unite day and night. NTA Parliament, the voice, shining so bright in the hall of power. We take our parliamentary discussions across the land as it is. NTA Parliament, your source of insights, bringing the parliament into your homes, debates and decisions clear and true. For the people, NTA Parliament is here for you. From north to south, east to west, NTA Parliament covers every legislative quest. Our lawmakers working for the nation's good in the heart of democracy. So tune in now. Don't hesitate. Join NTA Parliament for parliamentary programs and news both day and night. We are on DSTV channel 370, GoTV channel 126, Star Times channel 306, and Free TV channel 706. Download Oya Watch TV app from Google Play Store to watch all NTA stations. NTA Parliament, your source shining so bright and strengthening Nigeria's democracy.
We thank you so much for staying with us. Our topic is reconsideration of bills, and we still have with us as our parliamentary guide, ranking member of the House and chairman House Committee on Rules and Business, Representative Ejiroghene Francis Waive. Honorable, let's go into what are the benefits or advantages of reconsideration of bills from a preceding assembly?
Yeah, the advantages are numerous. First, you save time. All the time and effort that had been put into, first, the research efforts to come up with that bill. And when you come up with a bill, there's a scrutiny department that goes through to scrutinize it, ensure that that bill is not in conflict with any existing legislation, particularly the Constitution of the 1999 Constitution as amended. They also scrutinize for language, drafting, and then to also be sure that there's no existing law that already covers that subject. They dot the I's and cross the T's. So that's a process that goes on before you get to gazetting. And then before it now comes on first reading before the floor. And then second reading, where there's this huge debate for the merit, discussing the merits and the demerits of the bill. Some people for, some against, and sometimes it dies there. Now all that effort has gone through, and if it's a bill that requires public hearing, you publish in 3 newspapers minimum. There's a public people gather, stakeholders. There's a full day debate and argument, and then before the committee that is responsible, do their report on that bill, on that public hearing, and then it comes to the House. Then there's clause by clause, clause 1, 2, 3. If there are 100 clauses, you consider them on the floor, on the committee of the whole. So when you introduce a bill, reconsider a bill, all of these time is saved, and you go straight to the clause by clause consideration. And the reason for the clause by clause consideration is that in most cases there would have been an issue that made the president not to give his assent. So that issue will now be considered and corrected or cured, as it were, if so agreed on by members on the floor. Otherwise, it can still pass the way it is, and it goes back to the president for his assent. So you save time. You also save the resources, financial resources, human resources, material resources that goes through this process, the paperwork and all that. And you know that these days we are trying to be eco-friendly. The climate change matters. So you save all that paperwork. And then you ensure that you reduce wastage. The effort that has been put in is not wasted. Another advantage is that you don't miss good legislation just because an assembly has passed and there's a new assembly. Any good piece of legislation that the previous assembly had worked on. You take the audit bill, for example. It's a good one for our country. The last one we had was in 1956, the audit ordinance. And you can imagine who wrote that.
Even before independence.
That's before independence. That was written by the colonial masters. So we as Nigerians, we've not really written this thing again in terms of the realities of the moment. In the previous, you will still be finding pounds and shillings and figures that are obsolete. But now, we have brought it with what we have done this yesterday on the floor, passing that bill. We are now bringing it to into effect. And remember that this was done in the Ninth Assembly. So if we had thrown that away, Nigeria will miss the benefit of having a law that is good for everybody. So it's good to revisit bills that are passed in the previous assembly that are good laws for the country.
Oh, thank you so much, Honorable. There's also this parliamentary terminology known as consolidation of bills.
Yes.
Consolidation of bills.
Yes.
Would you like to throw more light on this?
Yes, consolidation of bills occur when more than one member presents a bill on the same or similar subjects, such that what do you want to do with these bills now? You bring them together to become one document, such that instead of Mr. A, Honorable B sponsoring their own separately, since, for example, if somebody is proposing an amendment to the Electoral Act, maybe Section 10, subsection 2, for example, another person is making that same proposition. There is no use running the two pari passu. So in consolidation, we bring the two together and we now have a joint sponsorship. It could be 2, 3 of such. We bring them together and we say the sponsors are now Honorable A, Honorable B, Honorable C. Rather than saying that same thing is being sponsored by Honorable A, it's being sponsored by Honorable B, you know. And most of the times, this occurs where we can help it before gazetting, before first reading. Where we see this, we can bring it to the attention of the sponsoring member. This bill you are bringing in is already being proposed by your colleague. This is the number is already gazetted. You know, but there are some cases where both already are gazetted, and you come at the process of going to the second reading. We must now bring them together, and they have joint sponsorship, such that by the time you get to third reading, it will be one law that we are dealing with. And this helps researchers, such that they don't have to follow too many leads. If they start at each of the sponsors, they should always end up at the consolidated bill. That is the purpose. And this came to fore last Tuesday on the floor, when there was some bills, establishment bills, for federal medical centers, and then some for college polytechnics. Now there is a whole polytechnic law that is wholesome, so to speak, that all you needed to do was to add the new one coming. So if the last polytechnic that was gazetted was number 89, this new one should be number 90. Now, previously our procedure was that you do that, you list it on first reading, the new one, and then we mention it for reconsideration. But the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker who presided upon the point of order raised by the minority leader was of the opinion that right from the point of reintroduction at first reading, they should go into the main body of the main law, that's the Polytechnic law as it were, or the Act for Federal Medical Center as it were, so that you just go on to list the new one as number 89, number 90, and so on. What we have done, the law now says, there's a rector, there's a librarian, there's a bursar. You don't need to start going through all that for each one. There's a standard law now. But the last section there now lists the names of the polytechnics that this law relates to or applies to. So if you are bringing a new one, it's just to amend that particular section to add that one as the next number. That is the new procedure. So you don't have to start there is a law for the establishment of Federal Polytechnic or BIAGA, Uwele South Local Government. You don't need to start with that.
So it should be an amendment
To the Federal Polytechnic law. And then for inclusion of that new Polytechnic at BIAGA at that section.
All right, it has been quite a revealing and interesting episode of Parliamentary Guide, and many thanks to our guide, ranking member of the House and Chairman House Committee on Business, Rules and Business, Honorable Ejiroghene Francis Waive. We thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And to you, the viewer, we thank you for watching, and we hope you will join us again for another interesting episode of the program. I am Mitaire Ikben. Bye for now.